Welcome back to the Papa Cog channel. Today I want to show you guys one of my favorite things that quite literally changed my life. And that thing is oatmeal. Not like Quaker oatmeal, sorry, but the oatmeal. Most people probably know him from creating the card game Exploding Kittens. Hey guys, Editor Cog here. I'm in the middle of editing this down and just realized that Exploding Kittens is actually coming out on Netflix in a couple of weeks, so yeah, it's not only a card game. What a weirdly relevant thing to be talking about, I guess. So yeah, hopefully it's good. You guys should check it out on Netflix, and back to my video. But otherwise has actually a very extensive webcomic career, one of which has resonated with me for most of my life. I stumbled across this comic when I was a teenager, and it frankly reshaped the way that I saw the world and how I saw myself and my own mental health and happiness, really. And that comic that I'd like to share with you guys today is How to Be Perfectly Unhappy by the Oatmeal, which itself is inspired by an essay written by Augustine Burroughs titled How to Live Unhappily Ever After. For those just listening along, because I do understand that these are probably more of an audio experience for most users, I will be reading the panels that I put up on screen aloud so that you actually know what we're talking about. That said, I will not be showing all panels, nor will the artwork that is presented, which really, of course, elevates what I'm reading, be clear to you. And so I highly encourage everybody, both visual watchers and audio listeners, to go check out the website by itself, give the essay a read, and give the Oatmeal a big hug for hopefully changing your life in the same way that he changed mine. How to Be Perfectly Unhappy by the Oatmeal. I am not a happy person. When I tell people this, they infer that I am unhappy. What a powerful opening statement, right? And I think something that resonates with anybody who has ever tried to tell somebody that they're not really at their best, but also not at their worst, that if I'm not happy, I must be unhappy. That idea of binary happiness. Moreover, as the Oatmeal points out, most would consider happiness a state of fulfillment or completion. It implies you won. You beat the end boss. You made it. You're a triumph. You're incredible. You're whole. That we have done what we wanted and succeeded. When I disparage this idea of happiness, the counter-argument is always the same. Oh, I know. It's all about the journey. But that's not it either. The conversation about the journey is always coupled with the idea that the journey is a joyous one, rich with smiles and fun and laughter. Also, journeys require endpoints. Otherwise, you're not Frodo, you're just a homeless guy wandering around with stolen jewelry. This one is particularly resonant with me at this exact moment in my life. Both for me right now and anybody that's trying to start this kind of new creative space, particularly in social media, often is met with a criticism of like, don't stress yourself out. Just enjoy the journey, the process of creating these videos, and don't worry about the end point. But that's really hard, right? To spend 10, 20, 30 hours creating a video that you feel that nobody will ever see. It is not good to only focus on the journey, because the journey itself can be painful, right? Because if we're just shouting into the void and nobody's listening, that's definitely not the reward that people are describing it to be. And furthermore, endpoints shift, they change, they become redefined. Hello, strange creature. What are you doing? I'm slargnacking. What's slargnacking? Well, I take these blorks, and I plug them into the claw like this, and if I arrange them in a certain way, they all start lighting up. It's beautiful. Thank you. And how long have you been doing this? My entire life. But does it make you glorcappy? Glorcappy? Yeah, glorcappy. It's when you generally feel good all the time. You smile a lot because you're fulfilled. Oh, I don't know. I just like slargnacking. Sometimes my arms hurt from lifting these, and sometimes I get frustrated. But I find it meaningful. I guess I never really thought about it until now, but I guess I'm not all that glorcappy. I guess I'm unglorcappy. Well, that's too bad. It really is beautiful, though. Thank you. I really like this because it also reminds me of Schrodinger's cat, and for those unfamiliar, Schrodinger's cat is a quantum physics example of quantum superposition, which, super briefly, not important, tries to explain how a state of matter can actually exist in two configurations at once. And so just kind of keeping this idea in mind, I'll just run us through the experiment and make a few little tweaks to be a bit more apropos to what we're talking about now. So instead of just having a normal cat, let's call our cat Happy, and we'll put it in a box with air holes. The original one is full of poison, a bit morbid for what we're going for. So let's begin by putting Happy in his box and taking him to the vet because he's not feeling all that well. The catch being, the vet's pretty far. We kind of forget where it is, and in fact, we're probably gonna get lost along the way, but we don't really have time to look it up, so we just have to kind of leave and get started on our grand journey. Otherwise, Happy might not make it. And so, for both Schrodinger's cat and this current example of Happy the cat, if we open the box, we'll actually find out how Happy's doing. He's either doing just fine, or he's not. At which point, we know what he is. But until we open the box, we're not really sure, right? And so, in the moment before we open the box, throughout the entire journey, it is both fine and not fine. However, where it becomes subjective, right, is whether or not we open the box. And that answer, certainly when it comes to anxiety and depression, will definitely vary from person to person. And I know many people, and I apologize if you are one of them and that this video is boring to you, that do not feel the same way that I do, and that this comic does not resonate with them at all. But for those that it does, personally, for me, I would rather not open the box until I really felt mentally well to do so. And that could be very far down the journey, or it could be as early as I feel well. But that certainly doesn't mean I give up on the journey, right? I would keep walking, occasionally shaking the box, I guess, to make sure that Happy just didn't escape, but still not comfortable enough to open it to check. Which for me, I guess, is how I live my life, being cautiously optimistic. And I'm totally curious to how anybody else would react to that situation in the comments down below. I love kind of running through these thought experiments. But if that's the case, right, and we won't know if the cat's well or not until we open the box, how are we supposed to move forward with the knowledge that things might not be okay? And I think this strip really highlights that it's important to just do the things that we think are right to be doing in any moment and enjoying those. Which is distinct from the journey, right? Because it's not that we're enjoying the walk to the destination, it's that the actions that we're doing trying to help our cat Happy are meaningful to us, and that is the right thing to do. Something I find that's actually lacking from this comic is the idea of friendships and closeness when also dealing with these issues. Often in reading this comic, I would leave it feeling that my own ability should be enough to drive me forward to achieve my goals. And while that's great, I think that's something that people should aim for, it's definitely not what we should all strive for if that's not the kind of thing that is good for you. There are several things in life that can only be achieved through group interactions and kind of social gatherings. This is one such example. Because if nobody ever subscribed to this channel or got any views or any comments or any kind of interaction at all, this would be a profoundly isolating experience, akin to talking to myself in a mirror for hours. And part of the signaling, not for popularity or monetary benefit, but part of the sign that you're actually progressing right in this craft, I'll call it, is becoming a better orator, a better video editor, a whole plethora of kind of little creative talents that go into this. And knowing you're improving on those things is what I'm seeking. It's not the validation of others, but again, just knowing that my work is getting better. And the only way that I could know that, because it's a social aspect, is through the feedback of others. To me, when we share our interests with other people that have similar interests, right, it helps to obscure the goalpost that is often eluding us, to at least to me, making me more anxious. To return to Happy the cat for one last time, dragging your possibly dead cat across an unknown distance is pretty terrible, but I guarantee you, doing it with a friend that you're close with would probably make it better. And so, as a bit of a laugh, I'm a terrible artist, but the oatmeal, if you ever see this, here is a panel that I drew myself painstakingly and terribly that you may choose to include or whatever, free of charge for the rest of time. It's all yours. And so, as we reach the conclusion, what could we possibly recommend here? And as a quick aside, if you're still watching and you really don't kind of connect at all with what's being said, that's totally fine and normal. As I alluded to before, some people just don't feel this way. And that's fine. I think that's really healthy. If anything, I admire that about you. And I think that you should kind of hold on to that if you feel like you're in a good headspace. As for the rest of us, what can we do about this, right? And I think this is something that the Oatmeal addresses earlier on in the comic, which is the redefining of Pluto. The problem with happy is a lot like the problem with Pluto. Several years ago, Pluto lost its designation as a planet, which caused a lot of uproar. But Pluto itself was never the problem. It's our definition of planet that was the problem. Planet comes from a Greek word meaning wanderer, and was used to describe bodies that move in the sky against a fixed background of stars. It was a vague way of describing a complex thing. Does a planet move in a fixed orbit around the sun? Does it clear a path within the orbit? Does it have moons? Does it have to be a certain size? These were the questions that arose when we clarified our definition of planet. These were the smart questions that got Pluto downgraded. Pluto is no longer a planet because our definition of planet wasn't very good. I'm not happy because our definition of happy isn't very good. It's a monochromatic word used to describe a rich, painful spectrum of human feeling. And so ultimately, I do think it's important that we kind of stop seeing happiness in a binary concept and kind of just accept that some days we may be more or less happy than before, and that doesn't mean that we're unhappy if we're not at peak happiness. Furthermore, I think it's important to point out that this idea of what it means to be happy varies from person to person, and it is a incredibly complex social experience to try to describe to people when we are or are not happy and whether or not you feel others should or should not be. Much like Pluto, that reason may change from person to person, and frankly, I don't care what NASA scientists say. I still like my little planet Pluto. And so, in the end, I think it's mostly important, right, to just at least understand how you yourself understand happiness and what happiness means to you. So in the same way that Oatmeal drew a comic about it, that if somebody important to you ever asks if you're happy, that you're able to actually give them a concrete answer, especially if it's somebody that really likes to push and thinks that you shouldn't be. And being able to explain that you're okay when you are okay is great, because it can be really isolating when somebody pushes you to explain why you're okay with the situation when you actually are. But yeah, if you're still here, thank you so much. If you are here, amazing. I really hope that this was helpful for you and that you don't hopefully struggle with some of the same issues that I do. But if you do, that this was meaningful to you and that it helped put a little smile on your face. For everyone else, I hope it put a smile on your face too. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Keep kind of this channel growth going. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, feel free to fast forward to the beginning. To the end video that I alluded to. There's a little project going on in these longer videos that'll probably be grouped into their own playlist. I might disable notifications for them. I have no idea. And if you're not those people, but you guys like it, let me know, because I will continue to make these. These are ultimately my favorite things to do, but I also don't think that it will perform well generally within the YouTube space until the channel would be gargantuan, which, let's face it, I doubt we'll ever get there. But yeah, thank you so much for stopping in, and bye.